Hey guys, so I want to share with you 5 tips that I think can really energize your business development efforts. I mean, put things on steroids for you. Now, these 5 tips are not going to be limited to just, business development. I mean, they'll apply to basically every area of your business or every area of your life. But I want to talk about them in the context of business development because it's what I used to go from $0 to a lot of money fairly quickly. Okay. And there were 5 specific things that I did. First, I found purpose. Second, I created a plan and worked that plan. Third, I held myself accountable. Fourth, I stepped outside my comfort zone. And 5 is I took the time to enjoy my success, to enjoy the journey. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you about each one of these, drill down a little bit so you get a sense of how they work for me and maybe how they can work for you in terms of really providing you that breakthrough energy or motivation or strategy to explode your business to the next level. So here's what happened for me. Did you ever feel like life was just sort of passing you by? That your peers that you had been keeping pace with suddenly began to go past you. Maybe they started to buy houses that you wanted to buy, or drive cars that you wanted to drive, or go places and vacation in places that you wanted to vacation in, or start a family, and things like that. Well, that was me, guys. That was me up until I was about 34 years old. And I remember having a girlfriend, and one time she said something to me. She said to me, you got a lot of really good ideas, but you never finish them. And I was so mad. I was outraged that she would say, how could she say that to me? Because I was such a, high energy guy and always coming up with great ideas. But the truth of the matter was, she was right. You see, I was always coming up with great ideas and always taking a lot of action. But it was a funny thing. Once I got to the edge of my comfort zone, I stopped. And I started to do something else. And then I would do activity, get me up to the edge of my comfort zone, and then I'd stop and I would do something else. So I always had a ton of irons in the fire, but it never really produced any kind of meaningful results. And when I got to be 35 years old, I had it. Yes, I saw a lot of my peers passing me by, but I rationalized it for a long time, but I couldn't take it anymore. And I realized I was 35 years old and time was running out. So things had to change. So the very first thing I did was I found purpose, right? And the purpose was I needed to accelerate my results. I needed to catch up. Now, I don't mean catch up because I wanted to keep up with the Joneses. I meant I always was the kind of person who would always evaluate not how good I was doing in relation to other people, but how good I was doing in relation to what my potential was. And so I realized, I got to make some things happen here. And so my purpose, my drive, my focus was to accelerate my results, to catch up, and so that I could begin to enjoy the things that I saw all of my peers enjoying that I was missing out on. And so what happened was I got up every day with that singular focus in mind. I don't know if you've ever read the book, Think and Grow Rich, but in there, in the very beginning of the book, in the introduction part, Napoleon Hill, he talks about this secret. And I remember, he got my attention and I just kept reading and reading because he wanted to simplify what the solution was, the single most important thing to produce incredible success. And it was definite major purpose, a definite major purpose. See, if your why is strong enough, the how will fall into place. So you got to find purpose. Why are you getting up every day doing what you want to do? Is it you're trying to avoid some outcome, right? Where I wanted to avoid the pain of being stuck, in the same place, having my peers pass me by? Or is it some compelling, outcome that you want to produce, some goals you want to achieve? Whatever the case may be, find the purpose. Second thing was I made a plan. I never made a plan before in my life, up until I was 35 years old. I had ideas, right? I things that I wanted to do, and I pursued them. And I was always pretty focused and pretty driven. So I didn't feel the need to write out my goals. Well, as I began to really buy into my purpose, I began to realize the importance of reading books by other successful people. And one of the common things or common themes I saw a very successful person was they laid out their goals. They built a plan, and then they worked that plan like a machine. Now, that plan needs to include annual goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, and daily goals. Now, sometimes people will say to me, that's a lot of goals. That's a lot of goal worksheets. I think to myself, if you think that that's a lot of work, then you're not a serious player, because every great business has a business plan. And you got to look at yourself as like a business plan. And aren't you willing to put that business plan together? Here's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to take 1 hour or maybe 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours a year to lay out your 5 most important annual goals. Now, from that, I'm asking you to take maybe an hour, 45 minutes to write out your quarterly goals once a quarter. Now, there's not heavy lifting there, right? Because in some sense, they're just going to be fractional parts of your annual. And then I want you to take 30 minutes or so to do your monthly. And then I want you to take 20, 30 minutes a week to do your weekly. And then maybe the night before, I want you to take 5 or 10 minutes to decide what the single most important priorities are for the next day. Now, if you can't make that kind of commitment, then you're not serious about your success. I have a client of mine, and he's a very successful owner of a commercial real estate firm. And they brought in a capital partner. And one of the very first things the capital partner did was to lay out goals. And I participated in these goal sessions, right? These goal setting and execution sessions. And so what would happen is once a quarter, they would get together and they would go through the goals. And I thought to myself, if a company's investing tens of millions of dollars in another company, and that company making the investment thinks goal setting is important, then I think it's probably important too. I think I'm going to bet on their strategy as opposed to the person who says, I'm going to wing it. So the second thing you got to have is you got to have that plan. Guys, the third is probably the hardest. You see, because that was the one I struggled with the most. Not intentionally, not consciously, but subconsciously. You have got to become extraordinarily committed and disciplined when it comes to holding yourself accountable. Julius Erving, Dr. J, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, said, expect more from yourself than anybody else ever does, and you'll be wildly successful. And it's true, right? You've got to hold yourself accountable. You see, we know when we lay our head down at night, did we or didn't we? But if you want to rationalize it in your mind, you can. You can always find a way to rationalize things. But if you're clear on what your purpose is and you're clear on what your plan is, then accountability is very clear as well. And you just have to make the decision, are you willing or are you not? I tell you a great story. So I have a client of mine. He's the CEO of a grocery chain out here in Orange County, California. Wonderful guy, super, super guy, love him. So I introduced him to this concept of, of Rainmaker U and goal setting and all these sorts of things. And, at first you're thinking to yourself, it's super pedestrian, right? A guy at this level, why is he going to be, and he doesn't need goals, right? He's already got all these goals laid out. Well, the truth of the matter is they had corporate goals, but he didn't really have his own individual goals. So he got to the point where he said to me, Tim, I do want to execute on my goals. And I want you to hold me accountable. So I said to him, okay, here's the deal. I want you to write 3 checks for $1,000 each. And I want you to give them to me. So he kind of laughed. He said, okay. I said, then here's the deal. You see that power planner there, that document that I use to keep myself focused on a weekly basis? He said, yeah. I said, okay, I want you to fill that out weekly. And I want you to fax it to me every single Sunday or Monday morning. And if you don't fax it to me, I'm going to cash a $1,000 check. Now, he's the CEO of a very large, grocery chain. So he makes a lot of money. So first week comes, I don't get the power planner. So I just waltz over to the bank and bang, I cash a check. No questions asked. Doesn't say a word. Don't hear anything from him. Next week comes, no power planner. Cash another check. Third week comes, over the fax machine. You see, he found his pain point, and he was genuinely committed, but he had to find that pain point that would allow himself to be held accountable. When I get together with him, he'll pull out his book and he'll say things like, this is, I haven't done it every single week, but we've had a relationship for almost 10 years now. And he'll say to me, I'm in my 538th week. Now, there are many weeks he might not fill it out, he tells me, but the bottom line is he understands the importance of holding himself accountable. He's got to make that decision. What is it that you need to hold yourself accountable? Guys, if the fourth step is not as important, it's a close second to accountability. I had to be willing to step outside my comfort zone. Now, guys, remember I said to you, I would always have an iron in the fire, always have a project I'm working on, and I would work on it very intensely. And if you meet me for the first time, like my girlfriend early on in our relationship was like, watching me, and boy, he's a real go-getter. But what happened is I'd get up to the comfort zone, I'd abandon, go on to the next thing. Get up to the comfort zone, abandon, go on to the next thing. Get up to the comfort zone, abandon, go on to the next thing. You see, what was happening was I was avoiding stepping outside my comfort zone. When I was a kid growing up, I grew up in a great family, big Irish Catholic family. Our values were safety, comfort, and security. They were not risk-taking. They were not entrepreneurial. And that's not a criticism of my parents, because my parents were phenomenal people and they provided me an amazing, foundation upon which to build. But if I was going to be truthful, those values, and as much as they were empowering me, got to me a certain level, they also kept me confined inside my comfort zone. And if I was to achieve the success I wanted, I was going to have to step outside my comfort zone. I was going to have to take some chances. And you know what happens when you take some chances at first? Like imagine if you're walking across a plank from one side of a creek to the other, and there's a narrow board. And if you were just walking on the street, you wouldn't have any problem walking on that board. But now the board is over, a creek, and you're walking, and you're sort of like, shimmering across it, right? You're just trying to make your way across it, and typically you'll fall. It's the same thing when it comes to stepping outside your comfort zone. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to start small. I don't need you to be, crazy and take all kinds of wild chances and put your health or your family's, safety at risk. Bungee jumping and whitewater rafting and jumping out of airplanes, while they're fun, those aren't really risks. Those are thrill-seeking activities. I'm talking about stepping outside your comfort zone a little bit, where you're nervous, but you progress anyway. And I want you to start small, because I need you to just start to realize that even if you trip and you fall, you're not going to die. Get up, dust yourself off, and continue. I'll tell you a great story about a young man. So I used to be a lawyer, practicing lawyer, and I was at a law firm, great law firm here in Los Angeles, California. And I was always into coaching. I was always into trying to motivate people, right? I mean, even when I was a lawyer, I was always doing it. And so I'd go into the break room, or I'd go into the copy room, and I'd be talking to the young guys in there, and I'd be like, guys, you got to do this, you got to do this. And they would laugh. They'd get a kick out of me because of my energy. And so there was one young man who dropped out of college. And I said to him, I said, Todd, you got to get back in college. And so I was always, working on him. And he never openly acknowledged the work that I was doing with him, but he would make certain adjustments or changes. And I knew he was responding. So Todd was responsible for delivering the mail to the offices every day. Now, I know for those of you who are young, you're thinking to yourself, what's mail, right? I mean, because who gets a lot of mail? Well, back in my day, you had these carts, and there was a ton of mail stacked on them. And they would push the cart, and they'd stop in an office. They would take the stack of mail, just like they would at your house. He was effectively the postman in the office. And so Todd one day came by my office. I looked at him, and he had one of those haircuts, the Julius Caesar haircuts, the ones with the bangs. And I looked, and I was a little startled because it looked a little ridiculous, but I'm always into encouraging. So I said, dude, what's up with the hair? He says to me, it's my Friday look. How do you like it? I'm like, dude, I love it. I love it. He smiles, and he goes on to the next, and he drops the mail off. Next. So he comes back next Friday, and he comes to drop the mail off. How do you think his hair was? If you guessed back the way it was, you're right. You see, because what happened was he took a step outside his comfort zone. He received blowback, right, from his buddies. You look ridiculous. You look stupid. What are you doing? And what he did was he got nervous, and he retreated. See, you got to be careful. You got to be super careful about that. Guys, do you know that animals that get hit when they run across the road, like squirrels, raccoons, things like that, deer, they don't get hit typically running across the road. What happens is they don't have any critical thinking skills because they're animals. But what they have is a sense. And so when they're running across the road, they sense that there's danger. So they do is they try to turn around and run back the other way to safety. And that's when they get hit. Guys, when you step off the curb, go. Now, like I said, I don't need you to step off a gigantically high curb. I just need you to step off a low curb. Step off, but go. Maybe it's changing your hairstyle. Maybe it's changing the clothes you're wearing. Maybe it's deciding that you're not going to take on certain responsibilities that you used to take on. Maybe it's getting out of a relationship that is debilitating. Maybe you're going to cut back or stop drinking altogether. You know, there's a whole host of things, because once you start to step outside your comfort zone and you begin to, feel empowered, it has a cascading effect. And what happens is it becomes contagious. And all of a sudden, it's almost like wind that goes right behind your back and then pushes you forward more. So that's what I want you to do. Think about stepping outside your comfort zone when it comes to your business development efforts. Lastly, enjoy the fruits of your labor. When you're earning more money, I don't want you to get out over your skis and spend more than you have, but I do want you to spend money on things that nourish your heart, nourish your soul, reward yourself. I love custom suits, right? I love, ties. And I know that it's a little bit of a throwback, but I enjoy it. I like, I like dressing up. And so I like that. And I like going shopping for it. I love to spend time with my wife and my children. I love to just walk through Beverly Hills with my wife and, just have a cup of coffee and or she has coffee, I have tea. But, we just cruise through Beverly Hills and we just lounge. Love to go to the movies, love to vacation, love to go out to eat with my family. So I'm always trying to enjoy, the fruits of my labor. It's not just about work, 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 work. Okay. So those 5 things had really empowered me. And guys, when I started out, I decided I was going to be in the training business. I didn't have a single client. But man, I just went to work. I put my mouthpiece in and I banged on the phone and I networked like crazy and I built relationships. And I remember getting P. Phillips Murphy and Associates, my first client. And I remember just having that. And I mean, it was like I had just made $1 million because I convinced myself I can do this, right? So think about it in the context of your business development efforts, right? What's your purpose? What's the definite major purpose? Why are you so motivated to produce the results that you want to produce? Number 2, what's your business development plan? What's your annual, your quarterly, your monthly, your weekly and your daily business development goals? Stay in that lane. Okay. Number 3, are you holding yourself accountable? Right? Are you willing to be tougher on yourself than anybody else will be on you? Are you making your calls? Are you stepping outside, your comfort zone and meeting people at networking functions? Are you going to those breakfasts? Are you going to those lunches? Are you going to those dinners? Right? Really important that you hold yourself accountable. You're not just a talker like I used to be. Number 4, and I touched on it right there in the prior one, step outside your comfort zone, guys. Your number 1 goal should be find people who are further along than you are. People who can reach down and pull you up, whether it's resources, knowledge, or new clients, or new centers of influence, people who are more advanced than you, who for whatever reason take a liking to you, and they can help you transform your business development efforts. When I built my Rainmaker U program, I can point to 4 or 5 people that transformed my business, 4 or 5. And I built relationships with these people. They were much further along than I was. And think about this. They're not looking back, wondering what I'm doing. They're looking forward to find people who are further along than they are. So I had to capture their attention. It took a lot of, guts to step outside my comfort zone to say, hey, do you want to be friends? Hey, can you help me? So look to step outside your comfort zone as much as you possibly can. And then guys, enjoy the fruits of your labor. It's not all about, work, 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 work. Take the time to rejuvenate yourself, whether it's getting a massage, whether it's going to the beach, whether, I try to take off once a quarter, 1 day just for me. I have 3 wonderful children. I have a wife that I adore and want to spend every minute I can with. 1 day a quarter, I just try to take off for me, where I just do nothing except for stuff for me. And there's a lot of just kind of poking around in stores and, driving here, getting a bite here, maybe getting a massage, going to some place that I hadn't been to but always been thinking about going to. Just a mental health day for me to rejuvenate myself, because then I can be, a better leader of my team. I can be a better husband. I can be a better father. So those 5 things, all in the context of business development. You put those into play, I'm telling you, based on personal experience, you explode your business to the next level. Okay? So guys, remember, at the end of the day, it's not going to happen unless you do it. So you are your best bet.